The Denver Broncos were jet-lagged against the New York Jets, but the defense saves the day. We'll break it all down here on today's episode, Locked On Broncos.
You are Locked On Broncos, your daily Denver Broncos podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
The Denver Broncos hold on in London against the New York Jets in a clunky, abysmal, ugly, you name it, type of win here. And it's all because of the Broncos defense. Welcome into a brand new episode, Locked On Broncos, your daily Denver Broncos podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We know it's your team every day. I'm Cody Roark, Broncos reporter from Mile High Sports, joined as always by Sayre Bedinger, site expert over there, predominantlyorange.com. Thank you once again, Broncos Country, for tuning in, making us your first listen, however you choose to do so. Thank you to all the everydayers out there. We appreciate you so much, and we got a lot to break down here on today's post-game report as the Broncos defense saves the day against the New York Jets, where the offense and special teams nearly cost the Broncos a game against a winless and ugly New York Jets team. We'll go through the Broncos' offensive struggles on a day where Bo Nix was feeling it, what happened around him. Plus, we'll also talk about our game balls. Who gets one? You already know. The Broncos defense, they deserve one. They deserve first-class treatment. You get all that on today's episode of the show, brought to you by our friends over there at Mazda. Like our players, we sweat every detail because when you make every move count, pulling off the unexpected is only the beginning. Stay tuned later for highlights in this week's Moving the Game Forward, Mazda, Move and Be Moved. Sayre, I think we all expected more here from the Broncos against the New York Jets. This was a game coming into it where we felt like the Broncos should have dominated the Jets. They did in one category, but in two other phases, they simply couldn't do it. Let's talk about the good news here. Thank goodness the Broncos defense is as good as it is, man, because they saved the day. They saved Sean Payton and Darren Rizzi. I mean, I don't even know where to begin here. What a dominant performance by them against Justin Fields in this Jets offense.
9 sacks for the Denver Broncos defense in this game for a grand total of 55 yards in sack yards. And Cody, Justin Fields completed 9 passes on the day for 45 yards in total, meaning the Jets, they finished with -10 net passing yard. I mean, this is absolutely crazy when it comes to just the level of that everybody's at in the NFL, right? I mean, what we saw from the Jets, it was looking like a Big Ten game out there. You know, I'm used to Iowa, Wisconsin type games like this, but man, I hate seeing it. I hate watching it. I stopped watching Iowa games because of it. It's so terrible. But look, when you win a game like this, all that matters at the end of the year is the fact that you got the win. So for now, the style points don't matter. Of course, the context of what happened within the game needs to be discussed. And I think for the Broncos, how different did it feel in the first half versus the second half, right? When you talk about the Broncos went into the half up 10-6, it felt like they were up by 2 scores at that point. But then when the Jets went up 11-10 after the safety by the Broncos, it felt like the Broncos were down by 8 points or something at that point, because it just didn't feel like either of these teams could get anything going offensively at any point, especially with the Broncos personnel stuff, which we'll talk about. But yes, the defense absolutely saved the day in this game. I mean, shoot, Cody, I think the Broncos scored more points for the Jets than the Jets actually scored for themselves in this game. And it had nothing to do with the defense. The defense says that the Jets scored 11 points in this game. Cody, the defense, they didn't give up squat against Justin Fields in that group.
No, they didn't. And that's the thing. Like, you'll get people that probably never watched the game that are like, oh, the Broncos barely held on against the Jets. Or the defense, how could they allow 11 points to the Jets? It's like, it's not them, because on 2 back-to-back drives really to open the game for the New York Jets, they started in field goal range where they pretty much were like, all right, hey, we could just run a couple of plays, just kick a field goal here. That's exactly what they did. And it was just the flow of this game. It was weird, man. I mean, for a team that was in London all week long, I opened up by saying jet lag. That the Broncos, I don't think were jet lagged in this game. That's just a play on words here. But my goodness, I think we expected them to come out and play sharp, at least in all 3 phases. The defense, once again, as we talk about saving the day, you mentioned those 9 sacks that Denver had. I mean, Sayre, coming into it, we knew the Broncos, they led the NFL with 21. They're now at 30 on the year. 30 sacks overall through 6 games is crazy. It's funny money here. But I just felt like that the defense they set the tone. They brought the energy literally from start to finish in this game, and they made life very difficult for Breece Hall and for Justin Fields. And I mean, I don't think you could have asked for more here from this unit. I mean, once again, they held them on third down to 2 of 15. Sayre, 2 of 15, 82 net yards. And what you said about obviously the 55 yards lost due to sacks, a minus 10 net passing yards for this Jets team. The fact that the Broncos almost lost this game and it had nothing to do with the dominant defensive performance, that would have sat so poorly with me. I would have been like, that would have been one of the worst losses in franchise history. Not to sound like we're being negative here on a win, but it's like, my goodness, if the Broncos defense wasn't as good as it was, Sayre, this would have been an ugly game. And thank goodness this wasn't against a better team. This is a Broncos team that should have beaten this Jets team handily by a few scores. Thank goodness for this defense, man, because I was about to fire off a tweet. I said, I never want to hear another thing about Vance Joseph and the defense. They can't play big in big moments. Well, you know what? The defense has done their job since Vance has come on, minus that Miami game that, we'll always reference that. Vance has done a tremendous job. It's the offense that hasn't really carried their water. That's what wouldn't have sat well with me from this game if Denver had lost.
100%. And where you see everybody getting involved defensively to a degree that's very exciting, we're seeing Sean Payton really force feed things on the offensive side of the ball, right? We're seeing him try to force feed. Okay, let's get Jaleel McLaughlin action. Let's do this with, jumbo packages, and let's get this guy the ball. What we're seeing defensively is sort of the opposite of that, right? Where it comes to, hey, we're blitzing defensive backs. It's working because Brandon Jones and Talanoa Hufanga both got to the quarterback in this game. You're sending Justin Strnad at the quarterback. He had a 1.5 sacks. You're getting pressure at just the right times. You're disguising coverages in such a way that Justin Fields is holding on to the ball way too long. So it was a game where the Broncos needed every single ounce of effort from that defense, including late in this game on a drive that started close to midfield, right? Where Jonathon Cooper comes through with a massive sack on Justin Fields to end the game on 4th down. I mean, it was perfectly timed, clutch plays, getting the ball back when you absolutely had to have it, making plays on the ball when you absolutely had to have it. Even when Justin did make some throws in this game, I mean, the Broncos were kind of Johnny on the spot there. So it just felt like the defense, like you said, in terms of carrying the water, man, you almost had too many chances out there for the Jets in this game because, like you said, they have 15 third down attempts. To get to 15 third down attempts with how dominant, when you have 9 sacks in a game, that just shows that this offense gave the ball back to the Jets way too many times and gave them so many chances to creep back in, maybe even win. Thankfully, the defense saved the day, especially when it mattered the most.
Yeah, and look, I'll give a testament to the tackling of Jaquan McMillan, Riley Moss. I thought those guys, Pat Surtain, Talanoa Hufanga. I mean, I feel like all of these guys contribute. I know we're going to hand out game balls later, so we are going to kind of tease a little bit who's going to get game balls. Everyone on defense. Spoiler alert: we'll go into deeper details why later on in the show. But man, I just felt like there were times where J-Mac just made a tremendous tackle in space. Pat Surtain played the ball really well. Textbook teach tape against Garrett Wilson in this game. And I'll tell you this, I felt like the Broncos defense also got robbed of a forced fumble here because Troy Franklin was called for a fumble early on in the game that obviously set up points for the Jets on a field goal. Whereas I looked at Troy hardly had possession of the football. I didn't feel like he made enough of a football move, yet they kept it a fumble. Whereas Garrett Wilson catches this ball, he makes 1 or 2 steps, and then the ball gets punched out and they call it incomplete. I felt like that was a little bit of a robbery in a sense here. I didn't agree with that. I didn't like that call here, but man, Denver's defense, they came up big, man, and just a big game from the secondary, the pass rush, the linebackers. Man, not as many great things. Like I have so much I could say about how great this defense was today, and it's scary at how close it was to being talked about. I was like, wow, you wasted an all-time great defensive performance because of offense and special teams. But that's going to actually lead us to what we're going to talk about next. The Broncos' offensive struggles are mind-boggling here, and Bo Nix did everything he could despite pieces around him not necessarily fitting the equation. We'll talk about the Broncos' offensive struggles and what stood out to us here on today's episode, Locked On Broncos. Today's episode of Lockdown Broncos is brought to you by our friends over there at Mizzen and Main. You've heard this saying, you look good, feel good, play good. The problem is that most dress clothes only check one of those boxes. They look sharp, but feel stiff, hot, and they're also high maintenance. But that's why there's Mizzen and Main, and that's why I rock with Mizzen and Main. So does Bo Nix, by the way. He rocks it every single game day. Mizzen and Main makes classic menswear with performance fabrics, so it's effortless to look sharp and to feel comfortable. They actually invented the performance fabric dress shirt over 10 years ago, and they've perfected it ever since. I wear Mizzen and Main. I have polos. I have long sleeve dress shirts, dress pants from Mizzen and Main that I wear when the Broncos play here in Denver and I go to the stadium to work the games. I'm always dressed out in Mizzen and Main, and you should be as well. And I love that you can go from the office to dinner or even out on the golf course and still feel comfortable all day. Right now, Mizzen and Main is offering our listeners here at Locked On Broncos 20% off your first purchase at mizzenandmain.com with promo code Locked On NFL 20. That's Mizzen, spelled M-I-Z-Z-E-N, and Main, M-A-I-N.com. Promo code Locked On NFL 20 for 20% off. And if you'd rather shop in person, you can find Mizzen and Main stores in select states. This episode is brought to you by Mazda's moving the game forward. For those who believe it's not just about playing the game, it's about redefining it. There are moments that do more than put points on the board. They move crowds, move culture, and keep moving the game forward. This week's moment that moved the game forward is the Broncos defense getting after Justin Fields and the New York Jets. 9 total sacks, 82 net yards, holding them to 2 of 13 on third down. The Broncos defense is a big reason why they won the game here in week 6 in London. And when you follow what moves you, the unexpected is only the beginning. And just like there's more to every highlight, there's more to a Mazda vehicle. Mazda, move and be moved.
There was plenty to complain about with the Denver Broncos offense in this victory against the New York Jets. Broncos Country, we're celebrating a victory, obviously, but like we said, there's context to every single game and things that the team needs to address going forward. Ben Powers being out of the game was a huge issue for this team, among a number of other things. We're going to talk about it on today's post-game episode, Locked On Broncos. But Broncos Country, once again, want to say thank you to every single one of you that makes us your first listen of the day. Every single day, Cody, we got to celebrate a little bit, getting over 20K subscribers on YouTube. Really appreciate all the listeners out there for just their support of the show and for growing it to what it is today. So huge shout out to everyone out there. Let's talk about the Broncos offense in this game. I mean, I posted about it. A lot of others posted about it. Bo Nix looked dialed in from the very beginning of this game, even without really a much support in terms of the run game behind him. It felt like Bo was just locked in, and it felt like he was building off that fourth quarter. Really just a lot of nice throws, good flow to the offense. He was converting on third downs. Cody, ultimately, this offensive performance was sunk initially by just 2 guys, but one really stood out negatively in particular.
Yeah, look, I think the offensive line struggles of not having Ben Powers, that was a big catalyst in some of the results that we saw from the offensive production. I mean, but to your point though about Bo, like I want to be very clear here. Like Bo was a big reason why the offense even, had a chance in this game, because the Jets defense, I mean, Sayre, we talked about it all week long. Of course, they were going to get a couple guys back. They had Jermaine Johnson back. They lost a couple of guys in this game due to injury, but it's like, this is a Jets defense that has struggled to stop the run, and the Broncos seemingly couldn't get any rhythm going in the run game. Bo Nix was the rhythm. I mean, you talk about a guy, and they were even mentioning this on the broadcast, he just looked comfortable. He looked loose. And it looked like, even like when the Broncos are facing a few third and long situations, he wasn't necessarily flinching, or didn't look like, there was anything that was bothering him. That's what I like about Bo. Like Bo, I think, was the most composed component of the Broncos offense all game long here. But the biggest struggle here, Sayre, look, I think we have to talk about Matt Peart. I think we're going to dive a little bit deeper into this. Obviously, this week on Locked On Broncos, Denver has a left guard problem here. And after performing the way that he did, granted, it was his first start this season. I understand that. But you have to be ready. Like if a player goes down, you have to be ready to rise up to the occasion, and you can't have any drop-off. The drop-off from Ben Powers to Matt Peart, significant. Ben Powers, I think we saw just how valuable he is to the Broncos offensive operation here.
Yeah, and if you're going to go with a next man up mentality as a franchise, right, which we're fine with the Broncos doing that. They gave Matt Peart a 2-year contract in the offseason to do exactly this, to be a swing tackle and to potentially play some guard for you, which he did in the preseason. I think that, look, you make that your strategy. You want to ride with it. You want to ride with your guys. That's totally fine. But like you said, then they've got to be ready. And you cannot have these drive-killing penalties all from one guy, one player out there. And Matt Peart was, unfortunately, I mean, you would like to think he was just getting picked on, but man, he was making mistakes. He was playing poorly. He was missing assignments. He's, trying to cheat to help his guys. I mean, when it comes to holding, right? So you can't have that kind of a thing when your offense is already struggling to find rhythm, and then you finally do find it, and this kind of issue creeps up in a game, not once, but 3 times in the first half. He was called for penalties, and then another time, man, he got crossed right over his face, and somebody came up right up the middle for pressure on Bo Nix, so he missed an assignment there. It was just a major struggle that it just seems like the Broncos, they didn't have their guy ready. And I know Sean Payton was kind of trying to be coy about it during the week and say, well, we got a plan at left guard. And it's like, okay, well, it should have been a better plan. You should have protected your guy more or something. I don't know what they would have done differently in terms of preparation, but man, it was really unfortunate to see this, because I was thinking like, Peart, yeah, he should be fine out there. He looked okay in the preseason.
He's a vet.
Man, he's a veteran. Like he was terrible in this game, and it nearly cost the Broncos a victory.
And I would even say terrible is putting it nicely. I mean, it was an eyesore here. And I was sitting there too, because you have like these 2 holding plays here, and that's what bothers me the most about this Broncos offense. Penalties are still a massive issue for them. Yes, he gets the false start, which kills a drive because it backs the Broncos offense up 5. But I felt like the 2 holding calls were really backbreaking, because Bo Nix fired an absolute shot to Courtland Sutton for, I think, a 12 or 13-yard gain for a first down. It gets called back due to holding. Then Troy Franklin makes an incredible catch and grab on a 3rd down situation, and then they back it up 10 yards because of holding there. I mean, he got down into the red zone on that play, and then it just comes back. To me, you can't have that. It's frustrating. Like you're having these pre-snap penalties still as well. I know Pat Bryant had one here, but man, it's just the stuff right here with Peart. And there was one play in particular. They are pulling him, Sayre, to try to get him up. I don't know if it was a trap block. I'll have to go back on the all 22, but he pulls and he gets blown up by a defensive lineman. Like as a puller, you should never, ever get blown up. You should be the one who's blowing people up when you're moving down the line of scrimmage tightly. It was rough. It was rough. And Sayre, I couldn't help but think while watching this game here, I was like, man, the New York Giants, if Matt Peart is there at left guard next week, the New York Giants were sitting here watching this game, and Abdul Carter, Burns, Thibodeau, Sexy Dexy, all those guys were licking their chops saying, wow, we're going to get after the Broncos offense next week. This is going to be a tough one. We'll obviously preview that game this week ahead, but I think we have to have a larger conversation here on Matt Peart on tomorrow, or some episode this week here on Locked On Broncos, a little bit more in depth about what the Broncos should do here. What else stood out to you about the offense? I felt like the flow and the rhythm kind of went away. It was nice to see, like, we're talking about the offense's performances and how rough it was, but I definitely feel like we should highlight, look, we've highlighted Bo. We have to highlight Evan Engram. Man, that joker role, I know people hate the term, but Sean Payton was using Evan Engram in this game, at least in the first half, the way that he should have. And obviously he had a nice catch in the 4th quarter.
He did. Yeah. Evan looks like he built on what we saw against Philadelphia last week, and then by no fault of his own there in the second half. I mean, just 3 pass attempts in the 3rd quarter from Bo Nix, and that was on Sean Payton. It just 100% was. But yeah, to the point about getting Evan Engram involved, this is what we wanted to see. We wanted to see he made a clutch play on 4th down, right, Cody? I mean, to move the chains. He had another play that helped set up that Nate Adkins touchdown. So what we saw from Evan Engram in this game was deliberate involvement, but also your guy going up and making plays. I mean, unfortunately, he led the team, I think, with like 42 receiving yards, which is, you don't really want to see that in a given week, that being the number. But I feel like the sample over the last 2 weeks has proven to us that there's the role that we've been expecting, that we were disappointed to not see in 3 of the first 4 games or whatever it was. That role has finally arrived in a way that the Broncos can lean on it a little bit more going forward.
It's got me feeling nicey. That catch he had in the 4th quarter was incredible too. I mean, once again, 2 weeks in a row, just an incredible body adjustment catch there. And you could tell like Bo is excited to go to him. Like there's times where Bo throws it, past to him, and Bo's sitting there, he's smiling, the camera catches him. But that's why you brought him in. I mean, that one play earlier, you mentioned the 4th down play. you get him matched up one-on-one against an inside linebacker. And Javian Sherwood's very good. He was on our free agency potential wish list for the Broncos this past offseason here, and he wins that one-on-one there. Just great route presence about him. I love what we're seeing from Evan, and they need to continue to build on that here going forward. So while the offensive performance was ugly, Broncos Country 5 of 15 on third down. Pretty much just as bad as the Jets, almost by 3 different plays here. But overall, there were some bright spots, Bo Nix being one of them, and obviously Evan Engram. They got to continue to build on that. But they can't make the mistakes that they did in this game against the New York Giants, or it's going to be a long week next week at Empower Field at Mile High. Broncos Country coming up next. We're going to hand out our game ball. We're going to tell you why the Broncos defense, all of them, deserve first-class treatment on the jet flight home from London, plus why they all get a game ball and some things that we're looking at following the aftermath of this game. You'll get all that here on today's episode, Locked On Broncos. Today's episode of the show is brought to you by our friends over there at Supply House. And when the opening whistle blows on a new repair, get your crew moving forward with Supply House today. Order today and see parts on your doorstep tomorrow. Over 280,000 plumbing, HVAC, and electrical items from the most trusted brands in the business. Their real-time inventory and honest lead times keep you from punting projects, while their industry-leading customer service always has your blind side covered. If you need parts fast for a project, Supply House has next day delivery. Talk about a game changer. Just like Nik Bonitto, they come through in big time moments. Join the free Trade Master program today and score serious perks like priority shipping, lower prices, and a dedicated support line. Visit supplyhouse.com to sign up for free and use promo code SHNFL5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. Real people, real service. Today's show is also brought to you by our friends over there at FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. And the NFL season is here, baby. It's in full swing. And FanDuel has an offer that you don't want to miss out on, because right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use all across the app. For example, if you picked this past week the Broncos on the money line, you put $5 down on the money line against the Jets, the Broncos won. So if you did that, you should get $300 in bonus bets that you can use all throughout the entire FanDuel app to place bets on week 7 of all your NFL action or other sports that are ongoing all across the world. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. You get a game ball. You get a game ball. When the Broncos win, everybody gets a game ball except for the offense and special teams here. Broncos Country, thank you so much once again for rocking with us, making us your first listen every single day. A special shout out to all the everydayers. And just to touch base on what Sayre said earlier, we hit over 20K on YouTube. That's incredible. And that's a testament to all of you out there in Broncos Country for rocking with us every single day, all year long. Nobody does it better than us, and it's all because of you, the avid listeners in Broncos Country. Sayre, it's pretty easy to say that we're going to give the entire defense a game ball here. I think when we go throughout the practice facility this week as the Broncos prepare for the New York Giants, usually they have posters on the walls to like who gets a game ball, and kind of like what happened against the Tennessee Titans in week 1. I imagine the entire Broncos defense is going to get a game ball from Sean Payton and them this week. I mean, we highlighted just a dominant performance here. And the pace that this unit is on, Sayre, man, it's incredible.
It is. You mentioned it. I mean, they're 30 sacks through 6 games. I mean, if you stay at that pace all year long, which through 6 games, you got 30 sacks. My quick math tells me, Cody, that's 5 sacks a game. That would be 85 sacks at the end of the season. And the NFL record, I believe, is 72, which has held since 1984. So, yeah, all of that to say, this Broncos defense, they not only deserve a game ball, but I think Sean Payton should be in the group text being like, hey, what's everybody's Starbucks order this morning? He's got to go to Starbucks at 5 or 6 a.m. or whatever they open out there in Denver and say, hey, I got to pick up coffee for the entire defense all week because these guys saved our butts. They saved my butt if I'm Sean Payton. That's the mentality that I would be taking going into this one. And look, it starts, in my opinion, with 2 of the guys that you and I had on our game preview when it comes to players to watch. I had Talanoa Hufanga as one of my players to watch for this game. Cody, I feel like he played through an injury in this game. Obviously, he wasn't out there for every snap. We saw a little PJ Locke this week, but when Hufanga was out there, man, he made some great hits. He broke up a pass intended for Garrett Wilson that could have been a game-changing play. He had a sack on Justin Fields. I mean, everything that Hufanga did in this game, he almost had another one of those turnover plays too. I know you saw that. I mean, he's so close. If he doesn't have a defensive touchdown by the end of this year, the Broncos did it wrong. But I'm going to start there with a game ball for Hufanga, who played out of his mind in this one, made some clutch plays for the Broncos D.
Man, and that hit he delivered on, I think it was Garrett Wilson in the fourth quarter on a pass that Justin Fields had at the sticks, kind of dislodged the ball out. I mean, that might have been a tough grab for Wilson to make, but seems like Hufanga's presence kind of kept him down a little bit. And Wilson looked like he had a little bit of a back injury that was bothering him. But man, I think you talk about tone setter and the energy guy. Talanoa Hufanga's flying around everywhere. Two of your guys that you had on your players to watch this week, each contributed in the sack department. Hufanga had a sack, but also JFM, John Franklin Myers, I felt like had some really good pressures, which kind of leads into my game balls too, because I had Jaquan McMillan as one of my guys. I thought he tackled well on the perimeter. There was one play in particular. It was a key third down stop where he kind of like one-handed, I think it was Breece Hall, and just kind of made sure he couldn't go anywhere. The defense came and rallied and tackled. But then Jonathon Cooper and your guy, JFM, not only did he get a sack, but on one of Cooper's sacks, like JFM made a move on one of the offensive linemen of the Jets to the point where it forced Justin Fields to dip and duck underneath to where Jonathon Cooper just blasted him. Big time performance for Jay Coop here today on the day. He's going to get a game ball. And of course, Nik Bonitto, man, the NFL leader in sacks right now. He's got 8 on the year. And you could tell that they brought some extra attention his way. Everybody else 8 in this game. I mean, 9 sacks by, what was it, 6 or 7 different players in this game. That is chef's kiss. Doesn't get any better than that. Unbelievable performance here. This was a historically good defensive day.
100%. I mean, I think, you look all across that defensive front. Zach Allen had 3 more quarterback hits in this game, and you had Malcolm Roach make his debut, and he made an impact as well. DJ Jones playing well. Yeah, welcome back to Malcolm Roach. Inyomo Wazirike had a sack. I think he had the first out of the 9 in this game too. So really good to see him getting involved in the action, but the coverage in this game as well, Cody. I mean, of course, you look at the pass rush in a game like this, but I think the coverage was so good that it really, and I'll be excited to watch your film breakdown of this as well this week, because ultimately it wasn't just that the defensive front was collapsing the pocket so fast that Justin Fields could do nothing out there. He was holding on to the ball for quite some time because the coverage on the back end was so good. The Broncos dropped, their edge guys into coverage a number of times to disguise things. There was a couple of great pass breakups by Pat Surtain, who had 2 batted balls in this game. So I guess if you want to look at the secondary as a whole in this one, the coverage on back end was outstanding all throughout. So Vance Joseph, maybe let's give Vance, if the whole defense is getting a game ball, Vance Joseph's got to take one home for sure.
Yeah, and look, and there were times too, they didn't put Pat on Garrett Wilson on almost every snap. There were times where it was Jaquan covering him, Riley was covering him from time to time. 3 catches for Garrett Wilson on 8 total targets, 13 yards. Put the seatbelt emoji on. How do the DBs do it these days? Yeah, I always go back to the Malcolm Roach seatbelt celebration he did last year against the New Orleans Saints. That's always a classic one year. But man, I mean, Riley Moss, all those guys did a really great job in coverage. They did a great job in tackling. And the biggest thing too that you and I talked about, I felt like they were disciplined in their pass rush lanes, right? Not getting too far upfield or not dipping too far inside to where Fields can use his legs and take it and run. They did a really good job of corralling he and Breece Hall. Ironically enough, Breece Hall's best play of the day really came on where he fumbled a potential handoff, picked it up, and just somehow found some extra ground. But Denver's defense, man, they held firm in this game, and now they got to take on Jackson Dart and the New York Giants, who are a much better team than their record indicates. Broncos country, we looked at how the Broncos played the winless Jets team. Well, this New York Giants team is nothing like their record even indicates here. Their rough record was really related to their early starts with Russell Wilson. Jackson Dart has really shot some energy into this team here, and Denver's got a really, really tough task this week. We'll see if they're up for the challenge here. But Broncos country, as Sayre was saying, hey, we do film breakdowns here. I do a new series called 4 Down Territory on the offensive side. Send me 4 plays on the offensive side you want me to break down, and then we get into 4th and long, where we choose 4 plays on the defensive side of the ball. Make sure you let me know what your plays are. We'll break them down on film this week as well, part of Mile High Sports. And also here on Lockdown Broncos, Sayre, I think one of the bigger topics we got to talk about this week, obviously we're going to do a state of the AFC West, following all the Sunday games here for this state of the Broncos with their schedule that's coming out. But I also think as well, every day is going to get an episode on the potential solution the Broncos could have in the offensive line if they don't roll with Matt Peart this upcoming week. I've got one where it's just a switch of a couple of players on the offensive line. Yes, could be risky, but it could pay off for the team.
Big time. I mean, there's options out there. And even Adam Schefter, I know Cody, he posted something on Sunday morning about potential trade candidates around the league to keep an eye on. I found it interesting that he threw names out there like Joel Bitonio and Wyatt Teller of the Cleveland Browns. And the Browns could be having a fire sale here coming up soon. We'll see who else around the NFL maybe does a little bit of selling before the trade deadline. But he also had mentioned last week to expect trades to be happening when it came to, hey, every week leading up to the trade deadline. Like him and Rap Sheet, all those guys kind of feel like there's things happening behind the scenes to watch out for. Not saying the Broncos would do anything, but also something to monitor that we'll get to talk about, as well as a little bit of a news break over the weekend that former Titans first round pick Treylon Burks is going to be visiting the Broncos early this week. He'll be there. They'll be his first visit among potentially a couple of others, but also another intriguing wrinkle to kind of add to this whole script for the offense for the Broncos, they just need a spark. They need somebody to bring that spark, and it can be guys that are already on the team, but maybe you bring somebody in from the outside to say, hey, we're going to try this out and see what happens. But I like the aggressiveness from the front office. And I think that maybe we do see the Broncos shift focus after what we saw from Matt Peart in this game. Maybe you get a little aggressive in trying to replace him as well.
You know what that sounds like, Broncos country? A very busy week ahead for Sayre Bedinger, myself. We have so much to talk about with this Broncos team. So you're going to get the state of the AFC West, the Broncos' potential solution to their Matt Peart problem, and special teams, not so special. What is going on with Darren Riz's unit? We got a lot to break down this week here on the Locked On Broncos podcast. Broncos country. We'll see you next time. Enjoy the victory.